Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be reacting to
How I see Europe after leaving the US for 3 years.
Is healthcare really better in Europe? Almost every country
3
in
years
Europe
is
has
a good
a
time.
universal
Yeah, I think 3 years is
I've seen the good, the bad, though.
yeah, the honeymoon period is over after 3 years.
Yeah.
healthcare system, except Ukraine, Albania, Moldova, Armenia, and Georgia. Most
It's
other
burnt.
European countries, especially within the European Union, have well-established universal healthcare systems that cover their entire population to varying degrees, such as the UK, Germany, Southern Europe, and the Nordic countries. But the quality of care really depends on where you are at in Europe. In my opinion, the best system that has worked for me so far is having a universal healthcare system in place and an option for private healthcare insurance. One of the biggest problems I hear and have experienced here in Portugal is the long wait times in the public sectors. Where
Yeah, we discussed about this
Yeah.
that if you want to get something done, you have to go private way.
As if you're in a country that allows private insurances, you can use private hospitals and doctors that usually get you in a lot quicker, and they have nicer facilities. The opposite sides of the two, I think, would be Switzerland and Denmark. In Switzerland, healthcare is primarily private, but regulated by the government. Residents must purchase healthcare insurance, and the system is renowned for providing excellent care.
So that's kind of like Obamacare, isn't it?
It's private.
Private, but
the
government mandates everybody buys insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So it's Obamacare, essentially, because that's what Obama tried to do, make everybody buy insurance. Interesting.
Though it is expensive. While Denmark has a tax-funded...
But here is not. There's different pricing.
No, right, but Obamacare he tried to lower the insurance cost so everybody can
Yeah.
afford it, but at the same time everybody must buy it, because if you don't buy it, there's a tax penalty.
But there is some expensive.
Oh, Switzerland is expensive.
universal healthcare system that covers all
But isn't it
residents.
expensive? Everyone can afford it though.
I don't know. I know it's an expensive country from outsiders.
Yeah.
From insiders, do they make a lot of money and everyone is well off? I
Yeah.
can't say. I don't know.
Healthcare services are mostly free at the point of use, but some regions may experience longer waiting times for elective care. However, universal healthcare presents several challenges in poor European countries, particularly in terms of funding, infrastructure, quality of care, and equitable access. These nations often face a combination of economical, political, and logistical hurdles that make it difficult to provide comprehensive health
This
care to
doesn't
all
look like a
citizens.
hospital.
Some of these key challenges
Man, that looks like a Soviet Union apartment building.
Yeah.
are
It doesn't
insufficient
even
funding
look
and budget
occupied.
constraints, poor healthcare infrastructure,
Actually,
It doesn't look occupied.
this could. No, there's balconies. Yeah, hospital. You know what it could be? Like a rehab center.
Oh.
And like
okay.
in Soviet Union, rehab centers could have looked like that. Maybe, I don't know.
political instability and governance issues, quality of care and patient outcomes, transitioning to modern healthcare systems. While the goal of universal healthcare is noble and achievable, poorer European countries face significant barriers in implementing and maintaining these systems. Economic limitations, political instability, infrastructural deficits, and social inequality all contribute to difficulty of ensuring that all citizens have access to comprehensive, high-quality healthcare. So I would say that, in my opinion, generally the healthcare systems in Europe are better than the US, mainly because if you are diagnosed with a serious illness like cancer, I would much rather be in a universal healthcare system instead of worrying about owing hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical expenses because I exceeded my insurance coverage in the United States. When I go to the doctor here in Portugal, it is baffling how much more affordable a simple blood test or MRI is. When you connect to public Wi-Fi networks, are you really safe? Exactly. No matter what state scans can monitor password protection pro. Currently, it's risky VPN. Now, and in retirement blogs, you're going to hear how people are moving to Europe for a better quality of life. And I think this is kind of a myth and an illusion. I don't think that Europeans have a better work-life balance than, say, Americans. I think there are lazy Europeans, and I think there are lazy Americans. Southern Europe is a place that gets criticized a lot for their lack of work ethic, but I know people here in Portugal that work every day and get that money. Sure, the hustle culture is a...
That's what I've been saying throughout the reactions, because I feel like it ain't that different. Yeah, no, at least in Lithuania, because everything we see like is American is how kind of it is in Lithuania. So I don't,
That must be annoying for the locals.
what
Like
is
if people say, "Oh, they don't really work. Everything just comes easy," and here you are, like working hard.
Yeah.
part of the American dream, but it's not like everyone I know in the United States has relentless work ethic. In fact, quite the contrary. But I also know Americans who have figured out how to work only 4 days a week and enjoy the rest of the time with their family. We live in a day and age where the internet gives everyone an equal opportunity to put themselves out there, and this can reward the ones that work hard. People say to me all the time, it must be nice to come from America where there's so much money and everything is so easy. But they have no idea the amount of work it took me to get here and sustain this. But I will say that in general, European companies look after...
So they kind of look down upon him too. The jealousy seems a little bit that, oh, you know, it must be nice. You made your money in America, now you're living cheap in Portugal. Oh, that's another, issue you have to deal with, living as a expat, I guess, in Europe, because you do bring American money, which is, generally speaking, more money than they make there locally, so,
the well-being of their employees a lot more than, say, the United States. In Europe, there's often generous vacation policies and shorter work hours. But this doesn't always apply to people in poor European countries who often have to work multiple jobs just to keep up. And one of the problems the European Union...
I think what they don't realize also is, because we were watching, remember, a family, they moved because they want to cut their debt.
Yeah.
They could be living there, but they're trying to pay off their debt that sits on their mind. So it's not like... Yeah. It's not like they're having like the best vacation holiday.
Yeah, but they're strangers. They don't care about the other people. That they're seeing it from their perspective. So. And
I wonder, like, what is the normal debt that other people have in Europe compared to American debt? Because I feel like here in the States, it's so easy to rack up like debt, personal debt.
I think in Europe, maybe the biggest debt would be more so mortgage. I think
that's if people are buying houses, most people are renting.
I think like if there is debt in Europe, it's likely to be mortgage, whereas here.
Because where are you gonna get your debt in Europe? Because school, health.
That's what I'm saying.
Housing.
Yes. Well, housing is mortgage. That's the only one that if you want to buy a house, you probably have to take a mortgage. So that's gonna be your debt. Here in the States, housing. But that's kind of later in life, though. Like early in life, the first debt you're going to encounter is going to be school debt. Yeah, school. If you choose to go to education, it's going to be your school debt, unless you get to for free. But
I don't know how easily they give credit cards in Europe.
It's not whether they give it; it's just not as popular. At least in Lithuania, here it's pushed upon you. It's pushed upon you because you need to build credit, build credit.
People will look crazy if you don't have a credit card. And a lot of people, they fall into the trap where they buy makeup credit card, like Sephora credit card, and they buy a whole ton of makeup, and they end up being like $3,000 in debt.
Yeah, it's first is education, then credit card debt, then after that car debt.
Because you gotta have a car.
Yeah, if anything bad happens, if you get medical debt, and then mortgage.
And it's very common to put things on layaway, like you buy it.
That is kind of common with Lithuania, probably Europe too, like the installment plan.
Yeah,
that is kind of common.
Because you can do it with everything, furniture, everything.
Yeah, I think it's that is also similar in Europe. Yeah,
refrigerator.
But that's not gonna rack up a huge number because you buy a TV, like what, $600, $700. It's dead, but it's not like 10,000. Like I don't see how you're gonna rack up $10,000 or euros debt in installments. Like what you gotta buy, like a fucking boat.
Everyone gotta have an iPhone.
Yeah, but still, okay, 1,000 euros.
Is facing is that a country like Portugal is paying the same price for food at the grocery store as, say, the Netherlands, but their wage gaps are significantly different. This gives the poorer European countries a lower quality of life and the richer ones a better one. Is education really better in Europe? You often hear the U.S. education system being criticized in Europe, mostly because Europeans are upset that Americans don't know the European geography. But ask most Europeans where Ohio is located, and all you will hear are crickets.
If you're sharing a hotel room with friends, you're also sharing...
Do you think there's a correlation between education and the teachers in that region, in that area?
I would think so.
So, like, for example, in Europe, I don't know how they pay the teachers there.
Same as here.
Same as here? Oh, okay.
No, not like the same amount of money, but teachers struggle.
Oh, okay. So teachers,
Teacher is not a
they
high-paying
struggle.
job. Yeah, it's a struggling job. Yeah.
So I wonder how we can determine the quality of education. So private school.
No, it's just the standard is higher. They push you more.
But the thing is, even if they push you more, that's more work for the teacher. So I'm curious to know how much investment do teachers put into teaching.
Not necessarily more work for the teacher though. Like it's just
because I think most of the teachers, they go in as like a side project to teach the kids, but really to do their research so they can pop off.
No, and nobody in my middle school, high school, nobody ever done research.
Oh.
Not another thing. No, not at all. And universities, yeah, maybe not in school, high schools, no. At least in Lithuania, I obviously again I can't speak for other European countries, but no, it's not work for them. It's just the curriculum. It goes faster. Like whatever for you guys here takes to do like a year, for in Europe is maybe a semester for the same thing. So it just goes faster. So that's in the whole year you can cover what's 2 years worth of material.
Do you guys do this thing where you separate students like regular, advanced, and then
in Lithuania starting 10th grade? Yes, there is you can get to pick if you want A or B class. B is being like kind of
you
bullshit.
get to pick.
Yeah. A, because you have to pick like X number of A classes, and you can get a couple like electives as B's for the credits. Every country I'm sure has a different system, so I can't speak for others, but that's how it works in Lithuania.
There is no doubt that the U.S. has some of the top universities in the world: Harvard, MIT, Stanford, to name a few. However, if you're poor in the United States, gaining access to quality education can be challenging. Many public schools, especially in lower income urban and rural areas, are underfunded. This leads to overcrowded classrooms, outdated textbooks, insufficient technology, and poorly maintained facilities. Teachers in underfunded schools may lack essential resources to provide quality education. While generally in Europe, the European education system is widely regarded for its strengths in affordability, equity, and quality. Public schools in Europe are generally well-funded, providing students with access to modern facilities, well-trained teachers, and comprehensive educational resources. This contrasts with the significant disparities seen in the U.S.
I don't know about the facilities, though. At least, once again, in Lithuania, the facilities weren't all that. Facilities
but funding for
here.
schools is from the government.
Yeah, it's from the government, but the facilities are way better in the States than it was ever in Lithuania. But then again, Lithuania was at least like that time poor European country. So maybe like in Germany, UK, it's different.
Where funding varies greatly by region or socioeconomic status. In many European countries, students can choose to specialize in academic or vocational tracks by the age of 15 or 16. This early specialization allows students to focus on their fields that match their interests and aptitudes, preparing them for higher education or the job market. My final conclusion is that European education is often better suited for students seeking affordable education, early specialization, strong vocational training, and equitable access to education.
I remember interacting with your sister, and she was telling me that in Europe it's very academia focused, and there's not really a social aspect into college or in the schools to have students integrate with one another and understand like, okay, what is life aside from academia?
Yeah, and in Europe it's definitely grades, that's what matters. Here it's a little different. It's
Here we got a good balance of both.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah,
you're actually rewarded if you're very well-rounded and you do well in academia and do well in sports. That's like the ultimate student.
Yeah, sports is definitely way, way, way better here because you can get into school literally for free just by sports. That's never going to happen in Europe. Sports, like university sports, don't play a role whatsoever. They're more like intramural. And then like actual legit sports.
What if you play like a musical instrument or have any like talents? Are you able to go
Not that I know of. Well, okay, if you want to go to musical school.
But no, in a general school. Because here we have this interesting thing where you're rewarded if you are like talented in other skills, and you kind of have like build a resume and you could submit to go to a better school instead of the school that's in your area.
Yeah, no, not that I know. As far as I know, what really matters is your grades period. That's, if you were like a class president or something like that, maybe we'll get you a little bonus points. I'm not sure, but it's at the end of the day, it's still the grades list.
So if you're stuck in a region in Europe that is not funded the best, there's not really an alternative for you to go for school for education aside
Why?
from private school.
Well, don't forget the grades you get are gonna be based on the people in your class,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the school can be underfunded,
Mm-hmm.
but you might be the best student in that class. Your grade is still gonna be an A, 100.
Oh.
So it
okay.
doesn't matter. They're gonna look. You got 100. You're gonna get in.
Oh, okay.
Like you're not being graded like from somebody's from Poland is not being graded against somebody from Germany. They're great. Like if somebody's like from the poorest region in Ukraine,
Mhm.
they're not being graded against the richest region in Germany.
Mhm.
Like that's not how it works. They're being graded against their peers. So
But if you're struggling as a student and you need like a better school to learn, you couldn't go and have an alternative to another school.
yeah, you can go to another school in the city
Okay.
if you want.
Okay.
But if you want to travel, takes time to get to school. Usually kids go to the closest school that they're at, but it doesn't have to be.
Mm-hmm.
Education may be preferable to those who prioritize flexibility, extracurricular activities, and access to world-renowned universities with cutting-edge research programs. The better system definitely depends largely on individual needs, career goals, financial consideration, and personal preferences. Both systems have distinct advantages depending on the student's circumstances. In other words, the United States education system is good if you're rich.
I was about to summarize it myself that way. I would say American education is better for if you have money. If you don't have money, European is better. So I guess to take it overall, European is better because there's more poor people. Not even poor, like mid class and below, versus the rich. If you got the rich money, yeah, American facilities are way better. But if you like, what you call it, mid. What's the middle class? Yeah, if you like the middle class or below, European is better because everybody's the same.
Is the food actually better in Europe? Okay, so let's put one thing down for the record. I have had some terrible, bland, boring food in Europe. For me, majority of the best food in Europe and some of my favorite food in the world comes from the Mediterranean regions. Greece, Italy, but I'm not going to lie, some other parts of Europe have some questionable culinary stuff going on. One thing I will say without hesitation is that the ingredients are much better in Europe. Starting with the agriculture itself and the laws here make it better. The European Union food regulations are generally much stricter than those in the US. I mean, when I eat vegetables here in Portugal, they really taste like they are supposed to. Europe bans or heavily restricts the use of many additives and genetically modified organisms that are commonly found in US food. For example, Europe has restrictions on artificial food colorings, certain preservatives, and growth hormones in animal products. European regulations require clear labeling, especially when it comes to GMOs, allergens, and organic food. Consumers are more informed what is in their food, and transparency is not only the priority, but it's the law. And animal welfare standards in Europe are generally higher than in the US.
That's good.
For instance, the EU has banned battery cages for egg-laying hens and restricts the use of antibiotics in livestock. Free-range and grass-fed options are more commonly available, and there is a stronger emphasis on humane treatments of animals. European diets are more often balanced, with a greater emphasis on fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and healthy fats like olive oil. So it's no surprise that the US has higher rates of diet-related health issues, including obesity, heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension. The heavy reliance on processed foods, sugary drinks, and large portion sizes contribute to these poor health outcomes. Are politics as polarized in Europe as they are in the USA? While both regions face political polarization, the US experiences a more pronounced binary division between two major parties. In Europe, the situation is more varied and nuanced, with some countries experiencing significant polarization and others remaining more stable. Many Americans identify strongly with their party, leading to increased hostility toward the opposing side. Thus, the US...
I would say the difference in the politics, aside from the number of parties, here in the States there's people that identify, like their whole life is the party. Like they identify, that's who they describe themselves as. I don't think that would be like that in Europe. Like they belong to a party, but they don't identify themselves as a partition. Like like you say, I'm a Republican. Like I'm a proud. Like somebody's gonna put a fucking sticker. I'm a proud Republican, or I'm a proud Democrat on the car. I don't think they would do that in Europe. They would say the major difference is like how you announce to the whole world that's your identity. Because some people's identity is really the party.
experiencing significant polarization, especially in recent years, with a clear divide between Democratic and Republican parties. This polarization affects public discourse, policymaking, and even social interactions. I know many family members that don't speak to each other anymore and argue with each other on Facebook, and if you're American, I'm sure you have the same thing going on in your family and friend groups. In Europe, at least here in Portugal, there are certainly political arguments that happen, but it usually ends in having a beer or a glass of wine together, and everyone forgets about the argument and moves on with their lives for the moment.
Yeah, I would think politics are just not as important in you. Like, it's not like the meaning of life.
I think the only thing I think is like when it comes to not politics on which party you belong to, but what issues you may have as a person living in that country. Like
can you give me an example?
Like for example, like in Italy, there's the issue and divide of the North versus the South, and what they're doing in terms of wealth and GDP, and what's being prioritized. So with them, I think it's not about okay, what party. It's about more okay, what's the topic, what we feel about it, and how this affect my region and how this affect your region. And there are situations where even countries like, for example, also in Croatia, they'll make fun of a person, people from this area, and say this is how they behave, this is their attitudes, they don't contribute to anything, this is the personality type. It's like there's so many parties, there could be so many parties, but there is still like always going to be an issue where they debate about what's the priorities of the country, how they move forward, and how these issues affect their regions and their area. So it just looks different. Here it's just so easy to do because they assume that if you are a Democrat, all you care is about just social issues. You don't care about economic issues. And if you're a Republican, all you care about is in-the-day economic issues. And has been, what has been pushed to the media and to everyone as what it is. But that's clearly false. Because you can be a person, an individual with different issues that's importance for you, different levels. But you are thinking more as an individual, how does it affect you and your family, your work, how you put food on the table. Which is why you see a lot of people in this election season, everyone's noticing that their fridge is more empty, the dollars in their pocket is less and less. So they voted, even though if they were historically Democrat, they voted the issue, which was for economics. They voted the Republican guy who pushed economics.
I would say I guess the difference in Europe, what you mentioned, maybe it's more like you kind of you do make fun of the other party, you this, but it's more like all in good fun. At the end of the day, you still come together. It doesn't divide you as deeply as it divides here. Like here, like there's legit deep divide. Like as he said, families break up. I don't see a family breaking up in Europe. I just don't feel that politics are that deep.
In that same region.
No, but even if in different, if they were like, as you said, Italy, North, South, I don't think...
They talk shit about
No, they talk shit. I think, yes, they would talk shit, but at the end of the day, all is in good fun. It's kind of like, trash talking playing basketball. Like, you trash talk, you trash, you can't guard me, you can't guard me. At the end of the day, you still go eat together and talk. Like, I feel there's a difference in that the politics is not as deep. It's important, but family bonds are a little stronger than politics. I feel like here sometimes politics can be really divisive. Like certain issues can be really divisive, and it's just the guns, the abortion. I don't even understand why abortion is a divisive issue, and most of the people talking about abortion can't even get an abortion. I don't get it.
All right. To me, it seems like political polarization in Europe varies by country. Some nations like Hungary and Poland have seen sharp divides, while others like the Nordic countries maintain relatively stable political landscapes for now. And I think the reason is many Europe...
Also, partly like in the North, why there's not too much confliction about is very, I think, homogeneous.
Yes.
There's no debate, no issue. And also, if countries kind of push the policy that they like to primarily have people and give resources within their country first before they look at outsiders, to the point where they very patriotic, opposing immigrants. Those countries, they don't have too much of those kind of divides, because that divide happens when there's
immigrants, different and that's also why such a divide is here.
Not just immigrants, it's just different people.
But this is here like a melting pot.
Yeah.
So so it's
it's gonna be complicated if we have what Europe has, like 25
And
years. Like,
I feel like some countries in Europe is starting to experience American issues
you
because
see
of
that.
immigration.
And that's where you see
Yeah,
that.
because
Like,
immigrants are coming in and they're starting to experience all these stuff that like maybe
Germany, England.
yeah, that 10, 15 years ago was that's like an American problem. Now they're dealing with the same shit, and that shit comes with different cultures being introduced into the country.
European countries have multi-party systems, which can lead to coalition governments. This can sometimes mitigate polarization by encouraging compromise, but it can also lead to fragmentation and instability in some cases. In recent years, several European countries have seen the rise of populist parties, contributing to polarization on issues like immigration and the EU. Immigration is a very hot topic among Europeans right now, and I would expect to see more of these populist parties gaining ground in the coming years. For example, the Freedom Party in Austria is Austria's first far-right party to win an election since World War II. So I would say political polarization definitely exists in both Europe and the US, but it manifests differently
Because
in each
oftentimes
context.
these smaller parties, they form because they found an issue that many people relate, and they say come, and they can build and become a major party.
Yeah, they're like one issue party.
Yeah.
Is Europe safer than the US? Overall, while Europe may be considered safer in terms of violent crime and gun-related incidents, perceptions of safety can vary widely depending on the specific country, region, and local issues. Each area has its own unique challenge.
Well, what you consider safe, like for example, I would say like pickpocketing is definitely way more issue in Europe than it is here. But it is, I would say, it is a crime, so it should measure somehow its safety. But that's not something that's gonna get you, killed. So.
You know what they should include? Like environmental safety. Because there's some areas that have like really bad floods.
Oh.
But when I think of safety, I'm thinking, okay, the gun shooting.
Yeah, gun show, of course. Yeah, that Europe,
pickpocketing. I never thought of this as
somebody invaded your personal space. I mean,
I would be.
You feel unsafe because somebody invaded
upset.
you, but it's not
Really
something
upset,
you can die from. So it's I guess levels to safety, if anything.
But many European countries tend to rank higher in safety indicators compared to the US. But I would say that Europe certainly has its own issues with safety. It's just different than the United States. Generally, many European countries report lower rates of violent crime compared to the US. This includes homicides, which tend to be significantly higher in the US. Rates of property crime can also vary, with some European nations having lower rates than the US. The US has higher rates of gun-related violence due to more permissive gun laws, which significantly impacts perceptions of safety. However, Europe has faced its share of terrorist attacks, particularly in the last 2 decades, which can certainly create safety concerns, though the overall incidence of terrorism still remains relatively low. Now, most of the time, being from the United States, especially a place like Detroit, Michigan, or Los Angeles, California, I feel relatively safe here in Europe. It's important to keep your wits about you and always stay alert no matter what. Now, overall, while Europe may be considered safer in terms of violent crime and gun-related incidents...
I wonder why they have safety, aside from the gun issue. Because, for example, we have, I don't want to base it on the outliers, but, when you go to, Vermont, New Hampshire, I'm sure those people, they have guns, no? But do you think maybe I don't know, the cost of living there is adjusted? Do you have to pay for safety in a way?
Oh, what I think the problem here is with safety is poverty. Essentially, why people rob, because they have to. No, I don't think there are some people that are
just kleptomaniacs.
Kleptomaniacs, sociopaths, yes, always have been. They exist in Europe too, Asia, wherever, Africa. But most people, they do crimes because they have, or they feel they have no choice and they need to feed the baby, So, if they're gonna rob somebody at gunpoint, because there's more guns, that's what they're gonna do. Maybe we have to look: is there less poverty in Europe? Maybe that's the case. People historically own houses for same family might be live in the same house for centuries, so they don't need to worry about buying a house, paying rent. That takes a financial burden off. I think maybe that's why,
I think also is how wealth presents itself. Because to be able to rob someone, you have to see an opportunity. You have to see your mark.
That is true also because there's more richer people here. So when you
Yeah.
rob, your payday is higher than what it would be in Europe too. That's a good point. I never thought about it, but that makes sense.
Because in 2020, the crime was like literally nothing.
Because nobody was outside.
Because everyone was inside, and there was an opportunity to steal it, and people still had their guns.
Well, yeah, guns itself is
No,
not a
I know,
problem.
but I'm just presenting him saying that is that opportunity of how wealth presents itself
Right.
here in the U.S. If, as opposed to Europe. In Europe, everyone, they dress like fairly nice. Everyone kind of look. You wouldn't be able to tell, like, I don't know, who's who, who's not. But here in the States, people are very flashy and flaunt a lot of their wealth. You see the wealth, so the opportunity increases for an opportunity for crime to arise.
Perceptions of safety can vary widely depending on the specific country, region, and local issues. Each area has its own unique challenges, but European countries tend to rank higher in safety indicators compared to the US. And I feel much safer in most parts of Europe than I do in the US. So here's my final conclusion. Is moving to Europe going to solve all of your problems? Definitely not. There are problems wherever you go, and the grass isn't always greener. But there are some key factors that may make Europe more attractive for you.
Yeah, I thought this was a good video. He was
very
fairly
fair, very
unbiased.
balanced.
Yeah, because a lot of these videos, they always portray Europe like, oh, grass is green on the other side, it's way better. But I felt he kept it.
That's like real cute.
Yeah, I think his takes were reasonable. I think everything he said, I agreed with that.
Guys, of course, let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join the Discord. As always, share as much kindness as possible.